Okay. We're live.
Well, we're memorized, sorry.
I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's Farmington School Board meeting. We all join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I would like to welcome Stacy Rosé to our board. Remember, been appointed by this board in replacement of Josh, who resigned. Bill Shaggy is not with us tonight. Next, we have public participation. I'll leave it open for a second. Before we go to next on our after public participation, we have reorganization of the board. Does the board want to table that until after our presentation?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? All in favor? That way we can have our guests do their presentation sooner than later, because we have a bunch of board appointments that we probably should get through as far as the second. So I'm not hearing any public participation. We have two organizations that are going to present on before and after school programs. One, who do you want to go first? Flip a coin.
Flip a coin? Do you have a quarter, Charlie?
Okay. Well, I'll go by what's listed in my computer, which is Kat. So if they'd like to present first. I think that we haven't received anything prior to this, so this will be good.
I apologize, I meant to email this and,
That's all right.
but I got handouts, so I made half of the assignment.
Can we move the squirrel over closer to them so that when it does
Yes,
go up?
and I'm gonna,
Yeah, this will be better.
It's thinking.
Yeah.
The mini ball. Yeah, right.
Well, that's fine.
You did move it.
I did move it, yes, I did.
Let me just get over here.
All right, well, hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Tanisha Johnson, and I am the Child and Family Services Director for CAP.
My name is Francesca Triel. I am the Child Care Program Director for CAP.
So just wanted to start just by reminding everyone of the mission of CAP, and that really is to educate, advocate, and assist people in Stratford County to meet their basic needs and promote self-sufficiency. Our three leaders is Betsy, Dan, and Kathy, and then you have us that handles all of the child care and family side. Through the mission, we have really outreach to the families of Farmington through our summer meals program, our after-school meals, our food pantry, fuel assistance, and housing needs. But within this mission, our child care really focuses on providing high-quality, affordable child care, regardless of socioeconomic status. And our vision is to really guide children in all areas of development to form strong pathways to healthy relationships and successful futures.
So currently in Farmington, we have the Farmington Children's Center. We provide high-quality early childhood education for children 6 weeks to 5 years in 4 year-round center-based classrooms. We have the capacity to go up to 92, but currently we're at 40% due to COVID restrictions and staffing. We hope to ramp back up our enrollment percentage as those start to dwindle down. And in addition to those 4 classrooms, we do have 2 Head Start classrooms, which are open September to May. 8 to 2 that provide education for children 3 to 5 who qualify. And in partnership with Head Start, we also provide wraparound care to better support the working families of the community. So we offer wraparound for children who want to get there when the center open at 6:30 and to stay until 5:30.
So what we are proposing is our school enrichment proposal, and that would be wraparound care provided at the 2 schools, Henry Wilson and Valley Views, which we're already licensed for 45 children at each school. We are offering before and after school care, which would start at 6:30 a.m. until school starts, and then from dismissal until 5:30 p.m. In-service and vacation day camps, and as well to just add in for consistency, summer camp as well. It would be throughout the school calendar year for early release days, teacher workshop days, first last day of school, just and holidays as well. And then our capacity does depend on licensing, but like I said, it is 45 children in each space that we are licensed for already.
So what we are proposing is a before and after school program. Full transparency, I'm not sure if we're in the same location for both spots. I would assume we would be. So with that being said, if we were in the same spot to, again, provide continuance between the 2 programs, they would be set up the same way. So children would have access to drawing, manipulatives to encourage STEAM exploration, tabletop activities, books, anything that would kind of, the children would want to, interest in having. So the morning would be a more flexible and fluid schedule to allow for the 2 types of children we typically see. You have those children that wake up 100 miles per hour ready for the day, and then you have those children that need a little bit more of time to kind of acclimate to the day, to wake up, to prepare for school. So the morning schedule would be flexible and allowing both of those children to be successful in our program. One thing that we would also encourage all children to do prior to school dismissal would be participate in a mindfulness activity to prepare for the school day. They also will be given breakfast and have time for independent play and subsequent homework help or supporting homework help if they need it from the day prior. The after school is a little bit more structured. We're kind of set up the same way where children have free access to the same manipulatives, tabletop toys, what have you, books. And from school dismissal to 3, it's a check-in and snack. It gives children time to come in, decompress from the day, settle in, eat their afternoon hungries away, and for staff to make sure that we have all the children and all children are accounted for. Then we go into homework help for about an hour to 45 minutes, depending on the needs of the group. And if there's no homework, then they'd be encouraged to be reading a book quietly. And after that, we would do a half-hour structured group physical activity. We think it's important that it be a structured activity, so that way you have those friends that would prefer to just play with Legos or play with board games, to really have those half-hour physical activity movement. And then the last hour of the day would be given back to the children. They just had a 6 to 7 hour structured school day where they're kind of told on where to go, what to do. And then they move into our program where there's a little bit more structure in the beginning. So the last hour is really given back to the children. Again, where they are given the choice of what they want to do and where they want to explore and spend the rest of their time. Staff would be encouraged to participate in the play, but not to lead the play. I think that's super important because, like I said, children are really, the whole day is kind of mapped out for them, so just to give them some time back for themselves. And then each child will leave with a prepackaged dinner when they leave our program, regardless of time.
So we are proposing the following rates. The AM fee is $50, PM is $75 per week. A full AM and PM weekly schedule will be between the rates of $100 to $125. For in-service and vacation camp, weekly would be $200 and daily would be $50. There would be a registration fee of $25 per family with first week tuition due upon registration. Of course, there will be a sibling discount and a sliding scale available to those who do not qualify for New Hampshire scholarship. Those families who do qualify for New Hampshire scholarship are always welcome to apply, and we will take any cost share if there is any. And there's a staff discount for all CAP employees of 20% of any child care program.
So these are the enrichment benefits that we see as working with CAP: on-site continuous care, the after-school meal and dinner program. We do have grant funding opportunities through DOE and DHHS. If we are able to secure those funds, then we will be reimbursing families that will have expended funds up to that point. Hiring school staff, we have a hiring and referral bonus. Again, affordable and on-site holiday and vacation camp. In addition to all of these, we know the intangibles that after-school activity programs have. We are in a mixed age group, so that allows for the mentorship and the modeling of appropriate behavior between young and older children, and it gives children unstructured peer group activity, which again is invaluable. That isn't necessarily always given to children during the school year when they are in the hustle and bustle of a school year.
And this also allows access to CAP resources. As you know, we have our fuel assistance, we have our housing program. We also have the Over Chapter Center as well, which also has before and after school for our school-age children as well. Any questions?
I have two.
Sure.
The first one was regarding the attendance at the daycare. You said you had capacity for 92, but you're currently at 40.
About 40, yeah.
Well, what has been your highest attendance before COVID? Did you get to 92 or?
We have been at full capacity in prior years.
And the next question is, do you currently have the staffing to provide for the 45 students per building in this proposal? Do you currently have that staffing, or you have to hire them?
We would have to hire at least 1 or 2 more staffing, but we do currently have those who worked school age prior when we were at the school. We have a couple of those still working for us. And with the hiring bonus we have right now and the referral bonus, which is $500. So if you know anybody, it's $500. Just reach out. But with that, we have a teacher job fair next Monday from 12 to 3. So we already have tons of applications for that, and it's hiring right on the spot. So we hope to get enough teachers for not only what we need for our center, but for this program as well.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. And how many, you've done this with us in the past,
Yes.
for how many years?
I believe we're both, I'm 7 months in, and she's 3 weeks.
3 weeks in.
So I believe we only had 1 or 2 years. Am I, Rodella, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 or 2 years, and then COVID hit, and so here we are.
So did they do it 2 years now?
They were here through the summer of 19 through 2020 until things blew up, and then, yeah, so.
Thank you.
Next, we have over from Granite Ymca.
Thank you. Are you planning to go to the podium? Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rob Riley. I'm the Executive Director of the YMCA of Stratford County, a branch of the Granite Ymca. I've handed out a printout of the proposal that has already been submitted over the weekend, but I wanted you to have a hard copy in front of you as well, in case you hadn't had a chance to review it. Just to give, I'm not going to go through all the details in here because I think you've had a chance to read through some of this stuff, but I just want to give you a couple of highlights as we submit this proposal, official proposal, to partner with the Farmington Schools and the Granite Ymca to provide before and after school programs coming into this fall. The Granite Ymca, or the Stratford County YMCA, is a branch of the Granite Ymca. We're located in Rochester, New Hampshire. The Stratford County Y has actually been around since the 70s, as an independent branch, and in 2008, it became a branch of the Granite Ymca, and in 2012, launched into our current location on Industrial Way in Rochester. We've also been running and facilitating Camp Coney Pine on Lowell Street in Rochester, which serves kids from all over Stratford County for summer camp programming throughout the summer. The Granite Ymca is part of the YMCA of the USA, which is a nationwide provider of childcare. We're one of the leading providers of childcare before and after school, as well as early education in the United States. And the Granite Ymca happens to be the largest provider of childcare as well for New Hampshire. We have branches in the Goffstown, Manchester, Concord is a new branch that has just become a part of the Granite Ymca, Londonderry, Rochester, and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And in all of those locations, we offer before and after school care and early childhood in a couple of those branches as well. The Stratford County YMCA serves, prior to COVID, was serving about 180 kids in before and after school programs in school sites both in Dover as well as in Rochester. And in our summer camp program at Coney Pine, we serve anywhere between 150 to 200 kids a week in our summer camp programs. So I've submitted an official proposal here for us to be able to provide a traditional before and after school program here in the Farmington schools, with an understanding and a target of acknowledging the fact that there's been a significant educational loss through COVID. And so our association team, the support we receive from the Granite Ymca, we have a support system specifically to our child care, are working with all of our child care directors to create and implement and launch into a curriculum that will help to support that in all of our after-school programs, especially those that are located in schools. Many of our programs association-wide are located in schools, and it's a great opportunity to partner with the local schools to be able to tailor that specific programming to the needs of that specific school and the needs of the students in that school, with the focus this year being on specifically the needs of the loss of education, the educational loss that's been experienced this year due to COVID. So it is a traditional program, but we will offer, like I said, academic support as well as recreational enrichment activities, things like STEM and just other support systems. The great thing about we have found is partnering with schools is that the staff in our programs are able to partner closely with the teachers directly in the classrooms and work a lot more closely than we can for programs that are being offered in our branches off-site. We just don't have that connection. So we're always excited about the opportunity to partner with schools. In here, you'll see information about what we're currently doing as an association, as well as a branch, what our philosophies are around providing before and after school program. There's some sample schedules in there, an idea of how we would staff the programs. We are licensed by the Department of Health and Human Services in the state of New Hampshire. We would seek to, if we were to provide a program here in Farmington schools, would seek to obtain a license for those programs as well and adhere to those strict guidelines. I have put in a potential fee structure in here. This is sort of a baseline based on what we are currently doing in some of our other programs in other communities that would be similar to what we're doing here. Obviously, as we hone in on the specific details of how many children in the spaces and the time frames, the exact time frames, there may be some flexibility in that, but this is pretty much where we feel like we would land in the fee structure that I've put in here. I'm proposing that the program would run, a before-school program would be available as early as 6:30 in the morning or 7, depending on the needs of the community, until school starts, and then we would provide care Monday through Friday after school, from when school gets out until 6 p.m. We do offer a summer program as well. At Coney Pine, we plan to provide busing during the summer for kids from all of the communities that we serve and to bring them to Coney Pine. We also have explored the opportunity of bringing Power Scholars, which is a summer learning program that we do in Manchester and Portsmouth, to the Stratford County area in some of the schools, as well as offering summer programs that are based in the schools. Again, that just really depends on the needs of the specific district and the community that we're serving in. So I don't want to take a whole lot of time reviewing through the details of this because I know many of you have already had a chance to review it. So what I'd like to do is just open it up to questions so that I can answer those for you.
Okay, so I'll ask you the same question I asked the capital people. Do you currently have the staffing employed to do this or provide this service yet, or would you have to hire?
We would have to hire staff because this is a new program. We do currently have a full board of staff that are working in our Camp Coney Pine location right now, many of which are hoping to continue summer school year employment in our after-school programs, and we're engaging in the hiring process right now. One of the things that we found very helpful in school programs is to seek to employ staff of the schools, so teachers and paraprofessionals who may be looking to have a second afternoon job to make some extra income and to be able to continue to be part of that partnership. Those have been actually some of our best staff are those that we've hired from within the schools. Some of our sites in Dover are actually overseeing the site directors and the staff, and those are paraprofessionals during the day, and they work in our after-school program. The great part about those kinds of partnerships is that those staff know the school. They know the school culture, and they're able to really help to implement that same school culture in the after-school programs. But we would have to hire because this is a brand new program, so we don't have staff all ready to go until we know that we're having a program. But we are committed to fulfilling the staffing for this program. We wouldn't explore this proposal if we didn't think we could meet that need. So I appreciate the question.
Okay.
You mentioned busing. How many buses do you run out of the Rochester Y, and how are you set for drivers?
Drivers is definitely a tough mode. We do have buses. Our busing is managed through the Manchester branch, association-wide. So we own a fleet of both minibuses and full-size buses, and it's based on the needs of each of the branches. So we're running a bus right now, a full-size bus that goes out to Dover and Somersworth to pick up students and bring them back for camp. We run a bus during the school year to bring kids from schools to the Rochester YMCA for transportation. So we do have transportation available. Hiring drivers, as I'm sure you all know, is not an easy task right now.
Anyone else? Ms. Ellen, any questions?
Okay.
Okay, well, we do appreciate the presentation and the information. I'm sure the board will be discussing it maybe later tonight or another meeting, and we'll be back to both organizations on which way we may proceed.
Excellent. You have my contact information if you do come up with any questions that you didn't get answered in this proposal.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
We'll let you escape. This is going to be pretty boring.
Thank you all.
Hey, you can't go anywhere, Kathleen.
I'm just trying to help
Nice try.
Riddle and move some things around.
She's helping me with clothes.
Whoa, don't pull on
I
me.
think that's Paul Jr. Paul Jr.
I don't recall it.
You didn't call it.
Stacy Bucket, when Paul Roberts called him remotely, all he did, and then he does
Just log
reset,
out like that.
yeah, something. and
Sounds like one of the squirrels.
We just call him the squirrel, so.
You don't call him Michael Squirrel, I call him Paul Jr.
That is your problem.
And, moving on next to meeting minutes. We have meeting minutes of January 7th. Public and non-public.
Any old business?
Oh, that's right. Old
And
business.
reorganization.
That's right. Wow. Just trying to cover it to the end of it, I guess. So it's back up to reorganization of the board. Since Josh has left us, we have, first of all, we need to fill the position as vice chair, and then some board appointments on subcommittees. So I know Joel's not with us tonight, so.
He may find himself on those committees.
Yeah, we'll sign him up for it. We'll sign him up for it.
He's a good team player.
So,
I'll open it up with a nomination for vice chair. I'll nominate Mary Barron for vice chair, replace Josh.
I'm going to second for discussion. Mary, you accept the nomination? What's that?
I could.
Okay, just want to make sure. Twist your arm too hard.
No, I'm fine.
Any other nominations for vice chair? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So 3 ayes and an abstention.
So I guess the easy thing in my mind to do is, instead of trying to reorganize the whole board halfway through the year, we have Stacy look at the open committees, give her the ability to ask questions on what they do, see if she can just kind of fill the voids that were created when Josh left. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe in,
She may not want to do all 4.
right, but if we, if Stacy, if you wanted to take to the next meeting and look at them and say, okay, I think these are a good fit, or I don't know if I could either have the schedule, because some of them have time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Some of them
do we have
have-
a schedule on when?
Yeah, you probably have to get with that one, because some of those are daytimes
A few
typically.
of them, policy committee is as needed, and we've been doing that predominantly electronically, so there's a whole lot of flexibility there. Building and grounds, again, is as needed. Capital improvements.
Right, and anything that you may feel that's not up your alley, you say, like the grounds one, one of us could probably pick it up, Joel's not here, so we'll send him up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that an alternate?
It's an
Yeah.
alternate anyway, yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that would give you some opportunity to look at it and then say, okay, these I think fit, and you're willing to do those, and then we can discuss the other ones.
Capital improvements and alternate typically meet once a month, mostly during budget season, but there may be some, in the budget season anyhow. So typically I'm there when I can make it, and your position will be an alternate. Probably what I look at as one of the most important committees that I enjoyed serving with Josh on was the learning loss. And I see as we're getting closer to school, we haven't been meeting, I see that being revived. Typically, that can change. We've got a new administration, so it's going to kind of be working around their schedule, but when we were meeting, it was kind of once a month on a Friday afternoon.
Early afternoon, like before school was out, so it
It
wasn't to beat the
12
buses.
12 to when the buses showed up, typically, or 1 o'clock to when the buses showed up. Here's where at 12.
Are you available during an afternoon type thing?
I work from home, I'm pretty flexible, I can make anything work, so.
Don't say it too loud, Steve.
No, I know.
So it's
Okay.
a whole bunch of possibilities. So I'll motion to table the rest of the committees till next week and give her some time to kind of,
Next week or next meeting?
next meeting,
Which is next week?
which is next week.
Well, depending,
Okay.
yeah. Charlie may say
I
otherwise.
just want to make sure. So there's a second on that motion.
Yes, second.
Any discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor? Yes, just see, Stacy, just see Retail, and she can kind of give you what's involved as far as the times and general issues, things that are presented to those subcommittees.
You can check.
Next, we have old business. Sure, we have some. I'll go ahead.
So I looked in the folder at the proposed job description. I know it's not on the agenda. So I want to bring it up based on one of the past statements, I think it was last meeting that I made, probably triggered the job description. Looking at an SAU level project manager. So looking at your job description, I see the need for some data entry. I see the need for managing grants, to take some of the load off of the other administrator, particularly not knowing where we're going with COVID. But some of the data entry that I'm looking at in there has to go beyond a data entry person. So as we're investing into this learning management system, that investment has to be at each one of the building levels, and kind of move that area. So I guess I'm not opposed to kind of what you're asking for to cover these areas.
Right.
But I'd like to see a third that's project managers, so that if we come up with a program to deal with learning loss, we don't have time, or our brand new curriculum director doesn't, or our brand new special ed director doesn't have time. And maybe we take it out of that non-exempt position and put it into a lower level management position, but we need resources to get some of this stuff done.
So I guess in looking at it, twofold, it can't be just data. One of the things, and I'm not looking to remove data from the buildings, but I am looking to, while there's some entry done at the buildings, have somebody who is then vetting what goes in to make sure. Because, case in point, last week I lost an entire day having to redo data for state reporting because there was nobody else in the district who had the pieces to do, and I was the last one standing. So I was recoding pieces for the state all day long. I'm not doing that again. I would like very much to have another set of management within that to make sure that what's coming in before it goes up hits that, yes, we're good, and then can be then vetted out for reporting. Because information went in, but it wasn't in the format that we needed, and there was a lot of reason.
So, I guess let me start by asking, the two areas that you want to cover, grants and data entry, how are we managing that now?
Right now, the data entry is done at the schools, but and I'm having some training coming in to be working with those who are doing the first data entry with the admin assistants. I have somebody coming in a couple of weeks to sit down and talk to them about everybody's going to do it this way. This is what goes in. This is why it needs to look this way, and make sure that everyone's cross-trained so that it's not just a registrar who can put it in. If that registrar is not there, the other administrative assistant in the building also has that training so that we're duplicating, not just, I'm sorry, we need to wait for somebody to get back from vacation. And then the grants pieces are predominantly split between the curriculum coordinator, the student services director, and myself. So that part is student services has the IDEA grant. Curriculum has the title grants, and then the ESSER pieces are mine. And looking to, while we would still need to be the last word on what goes in there, have somebody else doing the input on the activities, to be tracking those pieces. We're going to be giving, this is the data, but you need to be tracking it. Have somebody else chasing down an invoice rather than our doing that, to have those other pieces.
So with the data entry,
it's for state reporting, but also the learning management system.
so once things get online, what do you see as an hourly requirement with the right person in the seat for data management and grants? And is there an 8 to 10 hour slot that can be managed for project management or special projects?
Once we're rolling, I think that's very doable. Initially, there's going to be that upsurge of getting everything in and getting the processes set. Once those processes are in place, I think that's absolutely possible.
So as we're looking at the job description, and I don't have a problem with funding that into ESER, but I'd like to see special projects worked in with that job description. And I think it's an area that we're laxing. I think we have to look at it. We're going to get better. We don't know where we're going as far as what's coming in the fall. I think we have to stop overwhelming people and have a directed source, at least on the preliminary research, where those projects can go. And that might be a good home for it. So that's my only comment. When it comes back to the board and on the agenda, I'd like you to give some thought to work in project management into that position as well.
I mean, The grants management is grants project management. A lot of those special projects would fall under the grants. And so it may be a matter of semantics to make sure that that's explicit in there, but I think that's certainly doable.
Okay, so I have a couple of things. One, I spoke to you about a couple of them. I think that we're going to update the physical demands to be consistent with our hiring policy. My other one, which I'm still not, I'd like to see reworded, is split out the strong commitment of confidentiality and professionalism, because one will get you spoken to and another one will get you terminated.
Yeah.
So I'd like to more focus on confidentiality, as people going in, that this is not a request, so it's a requirement. The other question I had was, so this is proposed as a full-time 40-hour per week. So is that an hourly position or is it a salary position?
It's listed as non-exempt, so that would be hourly.
And is that going to make sense where some of these projects may be, at times, have bubbles of work that need to get done? You know, that may have trouble getting accomplished in a 40-hour week and may throw us into an overtime position. So we would be better off considering a salary position with a little bit more compensation, taking account for the potential peaks and valleys of the workload?
Potentially. I looked at several other positions, both regionally and nationally, to kind of get a sense of how they were structured. Most of them were non-exempt, and they were in that range. While I think there may be, during state reporting crunch, when we have EOI and BOI, have to end of year, beginning of year, all of those reports that have to go in and pulling those and scrubbing the data. When we have closeouts of grants, those pieces, which often fall at the same time as the EOI and the BOI, which is fun, that may be our bubble, but I don't think we're going to have.
Right, but the problem I see is when we have those bubbles, when we have that, hey, we need to get this done and it's Good Friday, and there needs to get 50 or 60 hours worth of work done in that time period, it ends up coming on you guys to backfill it. Instead of, we don't have the money in the line because it's prorated out on a 40-hour week instead of being a salary position that could assist with those late nights when it's a reporting crunch. I'm not saying it's a requirement, I'm just throwing it out there for discussion. Thank you.
I guess, looking at your data entry management, making sure things are done right. Take a non-exempt person at the SAU level, you get a principal, vice principal, or somebody that's just not doing what they're supposed to be doing over here. How does that balance? Because our principals are here.
It's not the principals who are doing that data entry, but yes.
Who oversees Power School now?
That's part of the issues, because that was the tech director, and right now it's me. And I have a consultant coming in to help because we are dead in the water right now. And that would be part of this position.
I'm more for a management position than a 40-hour position, because I think in some of the stuff that the board's going to direct you to research, look into, and get done, you're not going to be able to do in order to do it or get some compliance in some of the things we need done. We're going to need an administrative position. That's my feel on it.
Even though it's a short term. 2 years.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is the first chance I've had to read it. I'm listening. I felt for a long time that we need to have a half a person.
That gets messy.
Half a somebody that when you say go, they pick it up and run with it, that kind of thing. An assistant to you, but also.
Well, and my assistant has picked up a lot of other things as well.
Right,
So.
right. Your admin assistant,
My
we're talking
admin
about
assistant.
somebody that if, like, say, God forbid, we have another surge of COVID, you get a person in here that can take all the contact tracing over certain things like that bog you down in the normal course of the day, that allows you more time to concentrate on direction and supervision, things like that. That's the person that I'm looking for. If you can tie that in with grant manager, data manager, whatever you want to call them, you would, in my mind, define the priorities of that person on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis, how that works best for you. That's what I see with it. But again, I this hit the folder today, and I didn't
No,
get it.
And it wasn't on the agenda, so it was just, this was the,
I haven't had a chance to scrub it, so.
I mean, are you looking for this to be a more fluid position? Where they could pick up?
if we're going to make it more fluid, it would certainly then have to go into the exempt category. It would.
I mean, I also think if we're calling it a manager, that moves it more into the exempt category.
Right. Looking at, also knowing the job market right now, I have to be able to say, I can't just say, well, you're gonna come in and I'm gonna throw all kinds of things at you and you're gonna catch them. So, I need to at least.
There are people who would?
Yeah, well, come talk to me.
Sounds like find a job description.
The way I would sell it is, and this board has been very, very clear on, we want to grow this district. So it's not that we're going to throw a bunch of stuff at that particular manager. They're going to be part of the process of growing this district, helping us with the research that's involved in streamlining that process, so it's not 6 months to do a project that we could do in 90 days. So that's my vision of what's added to that position.
So you take that under advisement and get us back on draft next week? Or
Sure. At your next meeting. Yeah.
Next week.
Everybody's taking their time off, right? Everyone's ready to get back to full speed?
Excuse me, what's time off? What's time off mean? I looked it up.
We'll explain it to you later,
Okay,
maybe.
thank you.
The moving target.
Yeah.
We'll try your picture.
Yeah.
And you're not in it, but we'll
No,
try your picture.
obviously not.
We hired somebody for it.
Old business?
Any other old business?
I have a question on old business. Do we have a set schedule, payment schedule, now that we're in the new budget from the town? We have dates that we target, and it's been a while since I was treasurer, so they've been meeting our targets.
In fact,
Well,
they've
they've only
been
had-
flexible enough
They've only
to,
had one payment so far.
yeah.
So-
Well, no, okay, so let me rewind. Let's look at the last year. How did they do?
Oh, fine.
Okay.
We had a couple times where, actually only, I think once they really needed to move one payment, and it was not
Yeah.
a major issue.
That was always the way.
We work with
I mean,
them.
it always
Yeah.
worked.
We work well
Yeah.
together. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually am already in their first payment, I asked them to move up a couple weeks, and they did.
Yeah.
And then, people always remember, there's a new person there too, that
Yeah.
haven't quite met yet, but otherwise, so.
Okay.
I have a question. Did we make any progress on a seasonal employee helper perhaps?
It is posted. I have not seen applications as of yet. It's entirely possible that something came through today, and I have not seen it, nor have I talked to Larry about it.
But it's posted and hopefully we'll be able to find it. That was the only thing I had.
IT, when do you guys expect a report?
We sat down and spent a good deal, or Matt and I sat with them for a big chunk of the morning this morning. Initially, we had the 16th. Today I was told the 24th that they would be getting things to their boss, and then it would come to us thereafter, and I said, I
Well,
really need that.
That was the first schedule, and I had
Well,
to push it up.
Well,
He didn't get the message.
they didn't get the memo, I don't think. And I explained to them that I really need this sooner rather than later, and why. I think that pulling things together may go more quickly than they had anticipated. They have a series of about 200 to 230 questions that they ask, and they said typically they get 30 to 50 of those answered, and the rest of them are, yeah, and they have to go dig. We were able to answer more than, I think, 180 of them with yes, this is what we have, we know we have this. So with that, there wasn't a whole lot that was left on the discoverable part of what they needed to do. And so that may expedite some of that piece as well.
So what are they
Can I
looking at?
just interrupt what he said, the gap analysis to look at the report.
Okay,
The actual report, the IT assessment report should be the 16th.
okay, so we have.
Because they were doing both today. They were doing
That's
both
right.
the gap assessment and the actual.
So are we going to have it before the 16th? Are we going to have it on the 16th, or we're going to have it the 13th, so we can discuss if we have a, say, if we have a meeting on the 16th?
I have a feeling that it's going to arrive to us the 16th.
Good.
Thinking about putting into a motion to have a report and a proposal for contracted services in 10 days, or we're not gonna wait a bit. I don't think it with the,
10 days, like the 16th is 14 days above.
today's the 2nd, so we have to get it on the, we have to have a written report by the 12th.
Oh,
7 to 8, 9, and 10. Give them 11 days, and then we could have it in the folder for the weekend and review it for the 16th. I don't need them to come in and do a doggy pony show. I want the report is, I can,
Read it.
depending on what the board feels, we can read a report and understand an analysis that's done with recommendations. But we need to move forward, again, not knowing where the health issues are gonna go come September, with an IT structure in place for school open. And I get that they're busy, if they want a business, have something in front of us in 11 days with a proposal and scope, taking that into consideration with a proposal and scope of what we would be able to do if we went into a contract for services versus hiring employees.
well, I would say the 13th, which is, Friday. This is, your day was the 12th.
Yeah, I'm good at Friday.
And, for discussion, I want to agree because, in essence, I'd like to see, we need to get to this decision sooner than later. And if they need to be nudged, I'm okay nudging them. But the proposal doesn't need to be 100%. There's some things that are going to stay in flux because they can't hammer that all out, as far as the exact details. But we need to see at least the broad strokes of what that would be. And if there's details that need to be finalized past that, that's okay, to me. Because you can't say, okay, we're going to pull the deadline in, and we won't want everything to be 100% finalized, when they may not have the time to analyze everything down to the nth degree. But we need to, I think that decision, and Tim's point is to say, we need to get to the precipice of this decision sooner than later, instead of waiting for this great big report that goes, well, it's not going to work. So, what that majority scope could be is what that report needs to be in scope of services, because there may be things that need to be finalized and can be finalized if this board decides that it's going to go that way. This report may say we don't need to go that way, or we don't want that, or there's too much cost to go that way. So the sooner we get to that decision, the better off we'll be.
Because if that doesn't work, we're back at square one, looking for in-house employees. opposed to subcontracting out to me. Because
And
we haven't been pursuing that in a parallel fashion. You sort of put our,
No, because for me to say, well, I might have a job you can interview, but I might not.
right, I get
Makes
that,
it
but
tough.
I'm just saying that if this doesn't work, we're back.
Well, yeah, it's not a viable option. I mean, it will work, but whether or not the board feels comfortable with the cost for the service provided, whether or not we agree that it's something we want to undertake. So, I mean, I'm okay with pushing them to have, even if it's not 100% finalized, a draft proposal with a report, which is the broad strokes. I mean, they may come in and say, there's some additional investigation or questions going to be asked in this section. Could be, that's fine. But
Just like anything within the district, things are gonna change, and they might come in here and say, hey, we thought we could do it with 3. This is the benefit of adding a 4th person, so this is gonna be a fluid process going down, or we came in with 4. Next year's budget, we don't really need 4, that person didn't do what we expected them that they'd have to do, we're cutting down to 3. So, I mean, this thing's gonna be fluid through the life of it.
or there could be parts of our system that they feel need to be addressed, that they may put this number on. That number doesn't come to fruition, where it's either bigger or smaller. And that would be a point that working relationship has to allow that to work.
I think the directive is clear that we need to have something in front of us.
Well, and I made it clear to them that, waiting was not an option.
Yeah.
And that the 24th was certainly not going to meet our needs. I said, I have new staff arriving the 23rd. I can't wait till the 24th to think of, to kind of see what you might, we've got to deploy things. I think we can get those pieces out to new staff, but as we're looking at them the following week, needing to have devices out to all 700 plus students. Again, they have a lot of things that they've been putting into place over the summer, but I have one network guy and one student who's helping him. So it's not, and we have a lot of new pieces with new staff coming in. It's going to be significant.
The 1612 report you can wait on, all right?
Which is the compliance with
That's
governance,
what-
yes.
We're, all right,
We're good with that.
That's the
was
one
an
that's the
add-on.
24th.
that's when that's the 24th right now, so we're not in a hurry for that.
Nope. I want the analysis of where we are now, and what their proposal is as a contractor, if they come in as a contractor.
Yeah.
As quick as they can, no later.
80%.
Yeah.
I mean, there's issues that have got to be addressed, but just stated, this issue is going to need to be addressed and finalized. This is what, from what we see, this is what we estimate the scope of services that we would propose. We need that certain level. I think there needs to be a motion about that.
Consensus?
I think it would be good if I could say that I'm motion to the board, because that may light a little bit more fire.
I'll make a motion on the 13th to go out to bid for IT services.
Well, you can't make a motion on the 13th unless we have a special meeting.
No, I
His
think
motion
he-
is
My motion
that
is
By
on the
the
13th.
on the 13th.
Have a discussion about going out to bid on IT services.
So we're meeting on the 13th on Friday.
It's my birthday.
It's Friday the 13th. You guys can.
That's it, now, I got to draw a line on that. Now,
See? You guys were
that's the
sworn.
day I try to,
You guys were
Stay
sworn
out
on
of
Friday the
harm's way.
13th.
Yes, they were.
Just leave with that.
Are we meeting next Monday? Yeah, on the 9th?
so I'll make, you can draw the motion, I'll make it.
I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll make a motion to request this firm to have a draft proposal for us by Friday the 13th on what they feel the scope of services would be based upon your analysis. For us to review for the meeting on the, over the weekend for the meeting on the 16th. So we're nicely asking / requiring.
But just in discussion, we're not expecting them on the 16th to do a presentation, we're just going to review the paperwork over the weekend and discuss. discuss it.
Right. If we feel that we need to have them in, or they say they may be available, I mean, we should know that right away, depending on what it looks like.
I will second the motion, Ellen.
So, should I put it to them based on, we'll let you know if we need a presentation, but right now, they just want to review it, and if I get a call over the weekend that says, yes, bring them Monday, we'll do it. Because I can call them Monday morning and say, yes, we do, or I can say,
Even if it's on
your
Zoom?
Monday night just freed up.
Right.
But-
Even if it's, we'll have them in by Zoom or something, if we have a need. But right now, you know, we want a proposal, draft proposal, doesn't have to detail every possible scenario, what they feel the scope of services are with that report, so that we can decide, are we going this way, or we gotta potentially go this way.
Based on our review, we can motion to give you direction and negotiations if we have to.
Right,
So-
right.
We can
But I'm
say,
just-
this is the way we're proceeding, we'll give them a letter of intent, and we'll finalize it if needed. Because the answer may be, well, we have to do something different. We can't wait till the last minute.
Because before the end of the month, we're gonna have a lot of bodies running around, and you're gonna have one thing go down, and you have nobody to protect that, to bring it back.
Yes.
So,
You have other people to assist, but they have their own jobs to do.
well, not true, but.
I'm running out of appendages to stick in
Yeah.
holes.
We need a project manager.
Any other discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any other old business? Okay, moving on to meeting minutes. Meeting minutes of January 7th. Any motion?
I lost my place in the folder, but I'm getting
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 7th, public and non-public, 1 and 2.
it. Second.
Second by Kim. Any discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor? So I'll also make a motion to approve the
Did
meeting.
you,
minutes.
was that an I or an
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay,
I'm abstaining because I wasn't here.
okay.
And the motion carries.
Yes, it does.
Members voting.
Yes.
Members present and voting.
Right.
Were unanimous.
So I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 21st, public and non-public sessions 1 through 5.
Second.
Second by Mary.
Yep.
Who knows? Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
One abstention. And next we get to reports.
One question first.
2.
The new system, combined revenue and expense reports I like. I didn't see columns carrying over from one page to the next on what the actual columns were.
Right.
Heading.
Yeah, is there a setting in the software that can make that carry
We're looking.
forward?
But it doesn't in your other reports.
Yeah.
That's the
Which
only.
report are you looking at?
Because when he's doing the year-to-date expenditure report, that's based on the old system. That's not the new system. So when you look at the general fund year-to-date expenditure report, he's showing you 21, not 22. When you did it, so this one, this is the old one.
Right.
The third one down that's entitled Revenue Expenditures July 2021 is what I was looking at.
So, you look at
So-
page 1, and you've got your MTD, YTD budgets and all that. but when
This
you
one and
scroll-
this one are both the new system.
There's 3 of them, three of them.
Yeah, well, I'm running that.
Well, the reason why I put all 3 of them in there, because I kind of wanted to see what you guys wanted to see. So, some of them are, you know, they're all giving the same information, they're just giving it in different forms. So, I mean, I like the revenue expenditure because it gives you everything soup to nuts. You know, but it's also not as kind of organized. I mean, I don't like the all revenues report because it gives you, it's really busy.
The account level does at least give you headers that carry forward.
Yeah, the Fund 10 expenditure report is very similar to what we have now. It kind of mixes in with the summer report I used to give you because it gives you the percentages on the right. So, And it does have the headers on the top of each page as you go through. So that's kind of to me, that's the meat and potatoes one. That'll give you everything you need, although, but we can still fine tune this each month.
I'm just, yeah, I mean, I like the Fund 10 expenditures, but I also like having expenditures and revenue in one report. And I looked at it from a logistical saying, hey, wow, here's one report that we might just be able to, from the new system forward, use one report for reporting instead of looking at 4 or 5 different data sets. The thing I don't like about the revenue and the expense, the way it's printed here, is not carrying those headers forward makes it difficult when you're on page 10, say, okay, and not knowing the system, to say, okay, what is that column representing? Whereas looking at now the new Fund 10 report, the general ledger, the range to date, the year to date, the balance, the encumbrance, and the budget balance and percentages are all on every page, so it makes it easier to understand it. So I'm going up one page instead of 12.
Yeah, I'm still fiddling with these reports. I mean, I have more options here than I did in our old system.
Yep.
So I don't know, I know the headers I can't touch, but there are different things I can check off that may give a better
Yeah,
Okay.
that's,
reading. So
When I
I'm
look at it-
trying to streamline is what I'm trying to do.
right, but,
But I also want you to be able to know what you're looking at.
and you work with it every day, for us to look at it once a week or every couple of weeks or whatever, it's not as familiar to us, but I'm gonna bet when you go to print reports, there's, like you say, you can check off.
There's a
Gary
number.
Cole.
Yeah, it's.
I get excited when I get the same report twice.
Yeah.
So,
I had to do that with as basic as QuickBooks is.
I mean, it's much more user-friendly, but it's still a learning curve for me, as far as getting used to it. I mean, even the setup of the reports in our old system took a long time just to set up one report. To get it to where you want it, it could take you an hour. This one, it's a couple seconds.
You still running dual system?
yes,
Yes,
we will be on
so
here.
we'll be-
On here.
Well,
Well,
until we close this year, which will probably be about another week.
but then
And we still have to utilize it for
Comparison.
reporting, comparison. I'm trying to upload as much as I can into the new system, so I don't have to go back to the old system. And then I gotta start the budgeting system, which is gonna be much more, I can encumber funds a lot more efficiently in the new system.
You bet.
So,
It's amazing.
Ready for my second question? Do you already know what it is? $1,187,362.64. Is that a firm fund balance?
Nope, because I ran it just before we got here. That was last Friday.
Yep.
We did a manifest today. So the new number is $1,136,162.23.
Is that final number?
Nope. Still have.
But we're getting closer, and we haven't bumped into the million.
So do we know, so you ran a manifest today, do we know out of there what's outstanding for expenses?
At the most, 20,000, at most.
So do we have a way of looking at our purchase orders or our contracts, coming up with a number and say that's what we have?
Well, yes, but I want to see the invoices because the POs, we close the POs, but the amount on the PO may be more than the invoice that comes in.
And so, yeah,
The
we,
amount on the invoice may be different.
right.
Generally.
And usually the PO is a little bit higher because we encumber so that we know that we're good. And
We do that with utilities, we do it with all that type of stuff. It really depends.
We're somewhere between a 52-cent per thousand drop and an 85-cent per thousand drop in the tax rate.
If you, and that's,
With this balance, yeah, it bumps it up. Using the figure from last Friday, it bumps it up to 85 cents per thousand drop.
and that's after you wiped out the $3.14 projected tax increase. So you, 314 goes from 314 to 0 when we're going 50 to 80 cents below that.
It's going to be closer to, with your numbers that you're saying, I think it's going to be closer to the 75 to 80 cents. Well, we're getting closer.
You also have, and you asked, I think it was last meeting, what the total was of all those warrant articles.
Yeah, give us 65,000.
$63,319. So we're pretty spot on.
Yep.
with that.
And has all the ESSER funding been general over?
Yes.
Oh,
Any
so
any any funding that we would be moved over is already moved over.
Okay, so
Right.
that's not gonna go down because we suddenly said, okay, that's right, that.
No,
it
if
should-
anything, if it would go up.
It would go up
Yeah.
because they money out of
There's
the,
something else that
and it would
was
raise your
being
balance.
reimbursed,
So,
that's- that's right.
I did get today too the embargoed numbers for our adequacy. And so they've given us, here's how we're doing your calculations, now you gotta go in and check your numbers. And so I'm in the process of going in and checking the numbers to make sure that our reporting matches what the state is thinking they're basing our numbers on.
If you had a project manager, we could have had that money.
Well, actually, no, because one of the other pieces that I need is an I4C coordinator, and the state won't let me do it, and that had been Jen. So I've got to get that transferred over to somebody so that I can get permissions in other places, so, yeah. So,
Did
we're
we-
working on it.
Did we straighten out the ADM, what they were gonna do with that?
More or less, that's what I'm going back to double check, and part of that is based on those codings that I had to fix last week and update, so I'm just going back and everything went through, but I want to make sure that I didn't skew anything as I was pulling data solo, so.
We're gonna gain some here and lose them there. is
Right, and
basically how
right
it
now,
is.
we've actually gained a little bit, so I want to make sure it's money that I can take to the bank, that they're not going to come back and say
And
it's
the number's
going
gonna
away.
continuously change until they give us. the-
Oh, it does, yeah. We won't,
Hey, you talking the November 15th number?
the November 15th number is the projection for next year.
Okay.
But our adequacy fluctuates through, we'll get September, but then there's always that other adjustment that happens when they set the tax rate.
Mhm.
So we're still kind of, the waterbed is undulating, so we'll see where it falls.
But it looks good though.
Yeah,
I was gonna say-
we're in much better shape than we were with last year's November 15th number.
Not sweating as much as I was.
Yeah, I mean, we're only, what, 2 million off?
Well, we
Well,
weren't.
No, well, no,
We
but
weren't,
if you look at
yes.
the 5.6 versus the potential 7,
Well, it wasn't even 5.6, it was 5 and 65,000, it wasn't even quite 5.1,
Yeah.
and it's now close, it's a 7 million and change.
right, so
So,
we've got a minor $2 million fluctuation there.
as long as the fluctuation is in our favor as opposed to the other way, I'll take it,
Well, we're gonna have a decrease in that next budget,
yes.
and we're also going to have $1 million freeze that we took, not in that budget. So we're gonna have to,
Yeah, there's gonna be some fluctuation, and they've given us potential projected numbers for next year as well, which, again, will shift again and get tweaked in November, and then we'll see a couple of the other iterations. It'll change in April, it'll change again in August, and then we actually know what we end up with sometime in October.
Okay, anything else on financial? Okay.
That was enough?
Any questions?
Nice.
Look, now, I guess the question really is, do you want me to keep filling with the reports and just bring more choices next month to see what works?
And you found one you like?
it's new, Brian, I mean, you're good at presenting your data, kind of look at the system and see what you think is gonna work. My biggest thing is I go page by page, because I want to be prepared if the budget committee hits me on something. I like headers each page, because if I'm looking at something, I'm only gonna go up or down one page instead of 12. If I have to go up 12 pages to find a heading, by the time I get back, I'm gonna forget what it was anyway.
But I still have to send information to the budget committee. Are you okay with these 3 reports?
Yes.
Or, well, do you want all 4 reports going? Because
I think you should.
I want to be clear that that's front end is not.
I wouldn't
yet.
send the one that says 187 if we're down to, or 1,187,000 if we're down to 1,136.
No, I have the 1,036, I have
Okay.
saved already.
The last report that was budget committee, we had a fund balance of about 900,000 and some change.
950,
Yeah.
So they have June's report.
Right,
We
so
give them
anything they
June.
see bigger.
That's
it's
gonna
be-
change, once we have a solid change, for the better, then we'll let them know what that solid change is.
So don't send,
I would not send it now, I would send it once we have firm numbers on what that fund
let's
balance
see
is.
another week or two, so.
Right,
And you're not
we're not
asking for-
meeting until September anyway.
Right, But they've
Yeah, they wanna
asked,
know.
they have asked for the data monthly.
Which we've sent for,
We did last month.
Last month we sent June, but we're now,
in July.
we're needing to send July, right?
Right. But I wouldn't, what I'm saying is you had an updated Fund 10 report in your financials to us for the June ending.
Yeah.
So with that June report, you sent us 4 reports. One is report of June 2021. I would send the Budget Committee Fund 10 July that you have, revenue expenditures that you have, and revenue report that you have. And the discussion at the Budget Committee level really can be, what do you want? From, once we get back in September, what do you want? Because we can say, we're going to give you this, but they're entitled to whatever they want, in what format they want, so.
Yeah, I guess we can do that.
Just keep doing the 3 until we get back into September and let the board decide, that this revenue and expense report is good, that's all we need.
And just remember, don't print zeros.
Yeah.
I only did that once.
Well, and actually, on the new system, printing zeros wouldn't be as big a deal because we don't have,
We don't have a lot of
we didn't
expenditures.
carry in all of the old lines that don't have anything in them.
That-
It's
yeah,
when
we-
you're carrying 10 years worth of
Yeah.
bad data, it was,
We got rid
The
of-
chart of accounts got a little,
I got rid of a lot of lines too, that were
Yeah.
either not being used or were just redundant, and we're,
do you
It was
snooze
a-
them or do you?
what's that?
well,
They-
we
they
didn't,
just go.
we didn't bring them into the
We
new
didn't bring
system.
another new system, we'll still be in the old system, but, and it'll be for future budgets, I just renamed some of the lines and consolidated some of them. Just because of the way they were budgeted, it made no sense to have a separate line for certain
We
things.
need some more lines cut, I mean, we'll help you.
I'm pretty,
Okay, moving along to curriculum.
Where would you?
That way you can speak into the squirrel.
Never heard it referenced that way, but it fits. Good evening, and I wanted to say welcome. I'm Kathleen Chilton, I'm the new curriculum director here. This is my second board meeting, so I like you and new to the room. Because we just finished a financial report, I just wanted to mention that my fiscal responsibilities are going to be working on the school district budget in the 2210 function, which is instruction and curriculum development services. Ruth Ellen and I have already talked about some of the areas within that, and I'll be working with both Ruth Ellen and Brian throughout the school year so that I can learn and address issues with them. I will also be managing the title grants, as Ruth Ellen mentioned. Title I, which is improving our basic programs, and Title II, which is supporting effective instruction, are going to be the 2 major title grants that I will be working on, although I'll also play a part in Title IV and V. Moving on, this evening I wanted to talk with you about our strategic design. I put it in the notes as version 2.0 because what I have been working on is really a lot of dissecting the different components of the strategic design to further develop them in terms of how they look, how they're presented, how they're organized, as a way of honoring the work that was done on the strategic design, but also addressing the concerns that the board had about the particular document, one of which was that it was very lengthy. So in my teasing through this, I wanted to provide you with kind of an overview of how I see the strategic design being put together in such a way that is not overwhelming, but informative. And I've talked to Ruth Ellen about this also, to share my thoughts and to ensure that I am in the correct frame of mind that the Strategic Design Committee had when they were charged with this work, And I would certainly invite Ruth Ellen to interject anything if she sees that I need some clarification in some way, since I am new. For my own purposes, I put together a way to speak to you about our strategic design. One of the key pieces that any community would want is something that is informative and straightforward, and that I think is also what the board had requested. So in our strategic design, we're looking for it to be the foundation for future planning. It's not the charter for a new organization. It's a guide that we would have that would help and serve us as we are future focused. So it's capturing in words those key understandings that we want our learning community to have for our youth. Just as you might have a healthcare learning community or a business learning community, we're an educational learning community. So the strategic design would speak to really 5 pieces: our mission, our vision, our core values, our guiding principles, which you can think of as our foundational components, and that exit learner outcome, which was really now working toward that vision of the graduate that we have through our NEAS accreditation process. And in that 5th one, when we say exit learner outcomes, we're focused on a learner because just as a parent would be involved in parenting, those skills and responsibilities and dispositions, and a teacher would be involved in teaching those skills, knowledge, dispositions, the reference in education has shifted to the use of the term learner because it's a more active term. They're involved in their own development of learning. They're a co-developer of their path forward in education. And that also involves knowledge, skills, and dispositions. Regarding the mission, just as our CAP program talked about advocating, providing services, the bent in education is looking for a more summative message that is easily understood by everyone in our community. So whereas we currently have a 2015 mission statement, which is prominently displayed in the hallway here in the school, there is that movement towards something that captures the essence of who we are, our mission, why do we exist. I would suggest that we move from what the strategic design had for a single statement to something that is this. We engage, equip, and empower learners to thrive. So we are first engaging our learners. We're involving them in their learning process, their learning journey. But we have a responsibility to equip them with the tools and access to the knowledge that they need, access to them understanding the dispositions that they'll need to think critically, to problem solve, to reason. And then we want to empower them. We want them, just as we have our ELO program, to empower them to take that learning dispositions and understandings and move forward in their chosen path toward who they will be as an exit learner. And we want them to thrive.
Go ahead, I just interrupt for a minute.
Yes.
Strategic design and what we did from the community and staff level is more of a collection of data of what their vision and their suggestions are in the direction we're going. A lot of things that have happened or occurred after strategic design, one of which is the influx of almost $6 million in revenue in the district. So what we did is the data collection with the staff and the community. The strategic design plan is a board function. And my vision of the strategic design is that that's a business plan where we can look at what we've done and move forward, and that other future boards can inherit our work as we're moving forward. So it's the process, the data collection helped us say, where are we now? Where do we need to go? My vision is, and I spent some significant time, the superintendent told me she forwarded your thoughts. My thoughts is we simplify the mission statement, core values, keep it in English, our pathway to success, how are we going to get better? What's our implementation plan? How are we going to review that implementation plan and data? And what do we see as a vision of direction? That's where I'm moving as a board. So yes, we have 18 pages over here. We don't have to change it. We don't have to cut that down. We don't have to rewrite it. That's the data collection that this board took to come to our motion and our plan to give basically direction to our community with my vision. Go ahead. I know you want to yell at me.
No, I don't want to yell at you. I mean, well, but we have, no, you didn't give me the floor, so I'll wait. He told me to, but you didn't.
Okay, I was actually,
Good.
I wanted Kathleen to finish her presentation, but
Okay.
if you want to interject.
No, I was just going to say that the design was never intended to be a plan. It was the foundational
Right.
piece. We don't have a plan yet. And what Kathleen has done in disaggregating what's there, part of it is processing so that she can understand what's there, but also to try to kind of distill that down to, if we're going to use this to develop the plan, just to make sure that everybody has kind of that Reader's Digest version to then become the plan. I know that you've outlined pieces of a plan to start, but I know that we're also not there yet. And she's just trying to distill those pieces to say, here's my understanding, am I on the right page, so the board can say yes, or yeah, we're going to course correct you here.
But I think, in fairness to Kathleen, looking at what came out of that process, that's valuable data that was collected. But since that happened, we've decided as a board and given direction to, number one, we need a learning management system. Number two, we need after school, potentially before school enrichment. These are the steps that we've seen with learning loss that we're going to correct in the future. So all that good stuff that we've done, because some of this grant money has flown in, wasn't done over here, and the two processes have to mesh.
Absolutely.
And with that $6 million from a budgetary perspective, with that $6 million number, we're also at some point in time going to have some significant reporting on outcomes and milestones that we've reached. So by building this in my vision and building it into this type of document that I put forward, it's going to help us as we move forward, not only in strategic design, but budgetary and grant management as well, because if we're reviewing, on a weekly basis, assessments of students, to look for those falls and those peaks as part of our plan going in the future, then that data that we're collecting here in that aspect of how we're going to document is going to become more important over here. So I just wanted to stop when I'm hearing your plan, because, and maybe I misunderstood you, but I got, okay, we did this collection data, this is the direction we're going to go with the plan, and maybe I misunderstood the direction, but the plan's coming from here.
And I think part of it, Tim, is trying to make sure that she understands the data that's there.
Yep.
She's not bringing forward a plan. She's bringing forward some tweaks based on what you had and based on what she's read to say, here's where this might be able to be reconciled.
Yep.
And then also you kind of gave an outline, but I also heard from other board members the other night that they were looking for some other pieces than what was just in what you had given, looking for a slightly different structure. And so this is kind of the
Well, I
Reader's Digest
think
version.
Tim's outline that he furnished to the rest of the board is good for discussion,
Right.
and because it's just, this is where he feels that, we get to where we need, he feels we want to get to where we need to be. I'd like to have Kathleen finish her presentation because she's new, and I'm looking to get a, I guess, to understand where she's coming from on this, and then I'm sure we'll have other discussions, because I didn't know, what she's reading from we don't have, so
Correct.
it's
Right.
fine. But to kind of see what she sees from being here and how that can enlighten me in some areas to how to develop that implementation piece as a board member, to get to, like, in terms of, to get to, this is our plan for success from the data. But go ahead, continue, Kathleen. And we'll get on to another discussion.
Yeah, I will mention, to clarify, if you can envision, they sometimes use the idea of an umbrella. So this is what we're speaking about when we talk about mission, vision, values. That's kind of the umbrella under which then everything gets developed, such as your whole assessment and reporting system, such as school board policies, such as the direction that the board would want to go as leading the school. So it's not to be prescriptive of this is the board's plan. It's more just an overarching understanding. So within that, a board itself could have a specific mission that speaks to financial management, overseeing the administrative SAU staff. There could be those components. I guess what I'm speaking of is from educational learning community, and we're all in the job of working toward our learners, our youth, our students, that these are those overarching key pieces. So within that, there could be a strategic plan for the board in terms of fiscal management. There could be something regarding our assessment of student learning and evidence of learning and managing those data reports to look for opportunities to improve learning opportunities for students. So if we have a mission, I mean, really, we're all here for our youth in the community and wanting them to thrive. What's our vision for our youth? And in terms of the district, what the Strategic Design Committee had come up with is we're future focused for our students' sake, our learners, our community. We're a dynamic organization. We're characterized by change because that is what is happening in our world. But that idea of a dynamic organization also embodies that positive attitudes. We're full of energy and new ideas. So a vision of the Farming School District would be, it strives to be a future-focused, dynamic organization. And then within the document, they spoke about areas of vision. And here's where you have your leadership what's the vision for our leadership, for leading and managing our schools and our learning community? What's our vision for our personnel and support staff and our leaders, our administrators? And then our stakeholders, our vision for their involvement in our school and in our local community. And all of those collectively then speak to learning, curriculum, instruction, assessment, resources, and structures. So in the original document, it just had these page after page after page with a volume of text. And when I looked at it, really that volume of text are illustrations of what those different areas could be. It wasn't designed to be prescriptive. So again, if our vision is that we want to be future focused and dynamic, we're going to tap our leadership, our personnel, and our stakeholders to all be working toward that learning, curriculum, assessment, and so forth. The third component would be our core values. And I have heard that it is the preference of the board to maintain our tigers, that a tiger demonstrates trust, integrity, genuineness, empathy, respect, and success. And that notion of, once a tiger, always a tiger. And that certainly could be maintained. I believe that the curriculum, the committee was striving to also try and put in that notion of accountability, innovation into what they had suggested for core values. But certainly we could retain just the tiger. Tiger demonstrates. The fourth component are what they call guiding principles. These are foundational statements. And in the document, there is a page that has 3 columns that talks about, our understandings of learners and learning, our understandings about teachers and teaching, and our understandings about our learning community. And those could also be understood as illustrations of those 3 different key important areas for our foundation, for our guiding principles. And if we are a dynamic and future-focused school district, those can evolve. They do not have to be prescriptive, and they do not have to be definitive in terms of this is only that. We could certainly review those guiding principles. The last piece, the exit learner outcomes, was multiple pages. And when I drilled into this, I realized that here is where our vision of the graduate lies. They took those future conditions that they envisioned and what we would want our learners to be as adults, how they would be able to address those future conditions. And in the middle is where we then look for this then is what we want for our vision of the graduate. This is what we want students to demonstrate their competence in before they leave our school district. And here's where those notions of a self-realizing person, an engaged lifelong learner. We're continuously learning. An informed, and I would say responsible citizen for their personal life and their community, their community life to thrive. An empathetic and mindful partner, an open-minded participant, and a global citizen. So, from what I could see, the strategic design was trying to get at those 5 overarching pieces. Our mission as an educational learning community, our vision for our students. We want to engage them, equip them, and empower them so that they can become those lifelong learners. Our core values, our guiding principles, those foundational principles, and then that really what ends up being our vision of the graduate that comes out of this. And within that then serves for everything that we could do. It's as if this would be the introduction to a book with all of the chapters being the different areas within our educational community and how you would want to write those chapters.
Could you send that to us? I'll put that in the folder.
Yeah. And
Just because I want to go back to a couple
Right.
of things you spoke about.
And this was kind of maybe a little soon to have put this here. What I was, and I want to just clarify, Tim, to make sure that I'm reading what you're reading. The part that she's got here aren't action steps for the board. This is what Kathleen is looking to accomplish in the next couple of weeks.
So,
Yeah.
I mean.
And I don't know that that was clear either, so, I didn't realize we were going quite so far down in the weeds with this piece today. And that's kind of looking at overview, and next week we were talking about bringing forward the pieces for the vision of the graduate, which was one of the requests from the board.
Right.
So to clarify, I guess what I want to make sure is that as we look at that, do you want us to take those same basic components that came out of the strategic design? Or are you looking for us to streamline that? I mean, I want this to be it's got to be a one-page document. It can't be a tome. It can't go when it hits the desk. So how do we want to do that?
Well, it's good to have Kathleen's perspective.
Absolutely.
Coming in and reading in and saying, okay, this is what it boils down to. Because we look at some of the pieces that we know we have to complete. We know we have to have a solid vision of the graduate, and that has to come from the community, the people who work in it, the district, and its board. And we have to be in clear consensus that we agree with that. And one thing I'd have to have, when we talked about the Tiger, and they were trying to add a couple things potentially, consider how that, and I don't know if that makes something the board wants to consider or not, or does the staff feel that should be changed or added to it? I don't know if we even get a sense of that yet.
We haven't done a full staff because the board really didn't move forward with the design. We didn't go back and say to the staff, this is a full.
Right. So
Look for a
say if
vote.
that stays the same, we have the vision of the graduate, which we need to solidify as a community. And then there's a few other broad, overarching ideas, but.
Mission and vision
mission-
will either need to decide to stay with what we have or to tweak, because that's also part of what NEASC is looking for. Where are you with that, and what is it that you're putting forward in your document?
Yeah, I mean, so this is gonna be, like you said, whether it's the intro, and this is how we're going to accomplish it, which is, again, some of Tim's thoughts that he's furnished is, that, okay, this is how we're gonna accomplish, from our perspective of management, how we're going to accomplish being better, and this is the shortest of where we're trying to go. You know, the vision of the graduate, some of these other pieces to this that we'll try to tie it all together. So, I mean, I'm certainly would like to, I guess, continue with Kathleen's thoughts and you guys working on this for the next meeting, if you think that's appropriate.
So
I think the details of the implementation.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the board's to decide, and that's moving forward. But my question for the board is, based on what you've seen from the strategic design pieces, and what is in that last section of all the future conditions and exit outcomes, we know we have to streamline that quite a bit, but do you want us to maintain the same basic chunks where you've got an informed citizen, those pieces, or do you want us to rework that as well? Because I'm trying to get a sense of how much wordsmithing Kathleen is doing to bring to me, to bring to you by next week, or if we're...
I think we have to start with something.
Right.
And
Okay.
Boiling down of that information that was gathered and summarizing it is probably the only place we can start.
Okay.
Could we say, as a board member, well, you've got this as number 3, and I think it should be number 6, or I think
Right.
this should be reworded into something a little with a few different words? Yeah, probably.
Okay.
But if you boil down the information that's gathered,
Okay.
you've captured that, and then we have a place to start.
Can I ask what's wrong with a graduating student, is a student who has learned to become a productive member of society, has formed the educational background and study habits, life skills, and organizational skills, which are prepared the students for their lifelong learning goals and achievements. Our students will be prepared when their goal is to continue their education, enter our military forces, or enter the workforce directly from high school. What's wrong with that vision? Because we're looking at the 3 outcomes we're going to have. Saying regardless of what your outcome is going to be leaving our district, you're going to be productive, you're going to learn how to study, you're going to know your research. What's wrong with being concise?
There's nothing wrong with the vision, and I would say that's but NEASC is going to task us with saying, okay, so if you say be prepared, what does prepared look like? How do we know prepared to say we're going to graduate the kid? That's what they're asking us to tease out, and it's not going to look exactly the same for every kid, but we have to quantify it somehow.
So in quantifying what they're looking for, what is the written standard? So that we can look at a written standard for NEASC and work that into the vision of the graduate.
Okay.
It's difficult for me to say,
Right.
hey, this is my vision of a graduate if I don't know what the NEASC standard is.
Absolutely. That's fair. Yep.
And I guess my second comment, and I'm not being negative, I want to get this done and I want to get it done right. So I get the brief 1-page document, but without a business plan attached to that, all we're doing is singing Kumbaya.
We have to cast the vision of Kumbaya and then build the plan to get there. We do. But NEASC is tasking us with this piece, and the plan has to happen. It can't be in a vacuum. You're right, because otherwise all we're doing is getting sore throat singing loudly.
And we've gone through the process before, and it's sitting on some shelf where nobody knows where it is. So that's what I don't want to see with this process. And I see this is a very important process that's going to tie us into where we're leading in the short-term future to have better educational outcomes for our kids. That's why I'm passionate about this. So I get what you're trying to do with the intro, and I agree with that. But I think it needs to be more than that in page 2, 3, 4, or 5. And it doesn't have to be 100 pages. But somewhere in there, we have to look at how are we going to get there? How are we gonna monitor it? How are we gonna change?
That's the plan. Right now, we need
Well,
that piece
I would say
of-
that's the outline. of it.
Correct.
The plan is more details.
The plan is more detailed than that.
So,
and
I
some
mean,
of it
this
will-
boils down to, this is the intro, this is the approach, and then this is the details in every area that we're addressing.
And we're not writing the plan for next week.
Yeah.
All we're trying to do is take from what we have to pull the vision of the graduate in draft form to start the conversation about, okay, if we've got this data and these pieces, how do we take the very succinct piece that Tim's put out, put enough on that to say we've got some benchmarks that we can point to say, and here's what prepared looks like. And then publish when you're comfortable with the contents.
I mean, we need to define what the vision of the graduate is.
We do.
We need to do it for the NEASC, we need to do it for ourselves, and we need to take all the data that we've had to date, and this board needs to say, yep, this is what it is, with as much input as we've gotten, or maybe some additional input. Because if we come out with what that looks like, we're probably gonna need to ask for some comment. We may get some comment from community members or staff that says, well, I think this could be reworded a little bit better. And take that under advisement and then make a decision. But I think we can still work simultaneously with some of the tasks and plans that we know we need to put in place. That we're already doing, but, as far as the learning, as far as the learning software that we've been getting that data and some of the information into that, with the progressions, that's ongoing. And then we have to tie it, we have to pull it all together. So for me, can't wait to see what we have next week.
Next meeting.
Hopefully we'll have it before the meeting.
Yeah, I'll apologize to Ruth Ellen, this was designed to be overview.
Yeah.
I did this to make sure I had my correct train of thinking.
Right. But I would
Plus,
just
it
like
would help
to
me
have
to-
you send that to us so I can just reread it on a couple of things, and just so I can memorialize it a little bit.
Mhm.
Even though they may totally change, but that way, if you can just put it up in a folder or whatever, then I can just refer back to it.
But at some point, can you put the NEAS standard along with it for next week, just so I have a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I didn't bring it with me. There's actually a couple of places where it's mentioned, but I've got all those standards and can find them.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anything else for public? Or for non-publics? Manifest signing.
Contracts.
I do have a number of public participation listed. I haven't seen anybody here at the meeting.
Let's include my,
You start.
Pick the key for it.
Well, hopefully you can carry it.
How many verses do you know?
I know it all, but there'll be a motion to adjourn if I start singing. Guarantee it. Max Exodus.
So at this point, our next meeting is next week. And we're telling you think that's something we're probably going to need to do. I would say so.
As I'm trying to get some folks hired, at least to do a quick blessing on the hiring process, that's probably a good thing.
Okay, so at this point, our next meeting will be next Monday, normal time. With that, I will make a motion to go in non-public under RSA 91A, 3, 2, A, B, and C, nominations and resignations. Any discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor? Aye.
And, whoops, no.
Until we know that.
No, I came ill prepared.
Night, safe travels.
Thank you.
And the PowerPoint is in your folder.
So,
You had sent it to me,
Oh, yeah.
so
oh, okay.
it's there.
I've got lots of handwritten notes, but
Somebody
that's
shut
fine.
that. She's out of
Great.
town, we'll do it.
Thank you.
I will see you.
So I'm signing.
I did move
somebody shut the
admin to
camera on?
8. I don't know if you.
Yes,
I was getting ready to talk to you.
Yeah, okay. Good night.